Hello there, Big Benedict here. We're playing Gears of War 2, and this is my insane difficulty guide and walkthrough. We're currently on Act 3-5. It is entitled Displacement. So I don't know what it is about this chapter, but it's one of my favorite. I just like the environment, and I like just beginning what I consider to be the main portion of the game down in the Locust area. I checked in every corner. There is not a long shot. It would have been really nice to have a long shot for some of these situations. This first situation, though, it's just one Theron, and if you don't see me, I mean, you're not going to see me go over to his fallen body and loot his corpse because for some reason he doesn't drop a torque bow. But in that alcove that I just went into a moment ago, there is a torque bow over there. So what I'm going to do, since I don't have no, you can't have the long shot, so that's unfortunate. But the next best thing would be the hammer burst, so you can see a little bit further with it. So I swapped out my Lancer for the hammer burst, and then I've put the torque in my other slot. This is the beginning of a difficult fight, and thus commences Dom's downfall over here. And it's just amazing. It's funny too, hearing the Gears cry out for a medic when nobody's a fucking medic. Nobody's gonna go help you. Put bandages on your wound. What do you want of us? I thought that was funny, just the way they say that. But there is an ambient threat on these parts with regard to the Locust gunship. You can target the enemies on there and kill them if you want to. But mostly what you want to do is just focus on the main fight and regard the gunship as a distraction. It's an ambient threat, like I mentioned, but it's not that threatening. Now over here, there's going to be another Theron. You don't want to push too much forward though right now, because if you push forward too much and you haven't killed the Locust that I just shot at right now, you'll spawn wretches, and you'll have to deal with those wretches with that Locust. So you want to kill him first and then push forward up here. Right about over here is where the wretches will spawn, and then you want to fall back. And this definitely is one of those parts where Dom has a hard time staying vertical, and it's the first outing with him. I think it's like the first official outing with this you and him, and it starts off showing you exactly what you're going to encounter when you're out here with Dom. He's going to fall in combat because he can't handle himself, and he's going to get put down. He's going to get fucked by fire, pretty much. Literally coming up, too, because there's a Scorcher who will definitely fuck him with fire. And I wish I had better advice for you about this Scorcher that's coming up over here, but I think it's not a half bad idea to use one of your frag grenades to throw it over the lip of this stone platform that I'm going to go up into a moment, and deal with him by throwing that nade. So I'm going to pick up this weapon over here. The red ammo boxes, remember, they will sometimes give you loot for power weapons. And the Scorcher is right over here. He's right down there. Unfortunately, there's a couple more guys with him, and this fight, you've got to go down a long stretch without any checkpoint. And I would say that this is probably the main problem about this, is just the fact that Dom's movements are out of your control, and because he falls in combat at areas where it's almost suicide to go get him. And especially this particular environment, where you've got to stick your neck out really far to go over and get him, and he has a hard time crawling back over to you. You'll definitely want to make sure that you dispatch the enemies quickly. Mine that Cantus because whenever he screeches, he's going to summon those tickers. And then when you do get up to about this far, if you hit those gasoline canisters, this will happen here. You need to do that to progress. But that is the first checkpoint. I think somebody's still left too. So it's just one of these guys over here. But after this, you do get a checkpoint. But mainly the hard part of this entire fight is once you get up to that Scorcher, having Dom not fall down in combat. So it's really frustrating. And I just wish that they would hide a long shot on some nifty little alcove or something where you would get rewarded for looking around and be able to find a well concealed, I should say, long shot and get rewarded for your efforts of looking around. But it just doesn't not have the long shot. So you're gonna have to make do with what you have over here, which is not bad as far as what's around, because you have a torque, you've got a hammer burst, you've got your lancer, your tried and true lancer. But again, with that gunboat, you just need to make sure that you put some cover. Always protect yourself with the cover. So if it's over to the left, make sure that you can somehow put some cover, to your left, without necessarily completely putting yourself in a position of vulnerability as you face forward. So it does back off too. It backs off from time to time as well. But right now, I'm going to place a couple of frag grenades because there's a blood mount that will spawn over here. So you need to do this quick, and this is optional, by the way. This is definitely optional. I like to see if I can get some damage onto that guy with this. The torque bow will do a magnificent job of taking care of him, but if he happens to get through or anything, it's really nice to see that kind of thing where the chunks just go flying everywhere, and it feels really good that you put it at a good spot, that it ended up being a good spot, I should say, too. But once you get up to here, right, there's going to be another Cantus as well as a couple of Grenadiers. You also need to be very careful, too, of the Grenadiers, not in particular these ones, but on the first fight, that they're very accurate with their grenades, like more than usual. Very accurate. But as you push up here, just remember that that you're almost done. With this, however, you do have to go out on the pier and kill some enemies that are a long way away from you. And you don't get a checkpoint until that's done too. So I guess you have to just take what you get and kind of be grateful for it sometimes, because if this were Gears of War 3, they wouldn't give you any checkpoint on this probably. And make sure that you always go back around and pick up everything that you want before you spawn the next batch of enemies. This guy's ready to throw an ink grenade at me, but I think we're going to be able to put him down before he does that. If you kill him and he still has tickers running around, the tickers don't vanish. I wish they did. One other thing too that I really detest is that if Dom is crawling around somewhere near you and you're in cover, you have to disengage yourself from the cover and then pick him up. You can't just heal him. You can't just press X while you're in cover, even if he's right next to you. It's very fucking frustrating. In Gears of War 5, I know that you can do that, or Gears 4. And another thing that I really hate too, I'll mention that in a moment, but at the end of this pier there is a grinder, and then there's several just standard drones, maybe a Grenadier. It's hard to tell. They're so far away. One thing I hate though is that if you're near the end of a fight and Dom is down, he's bleeding out, and then you kill the last enemy, Dom still has to get revived, even though you have done the fight, finished it, succeeded at what you needed to do. But then you have to rush over to Dom, and if you can't get to him in time, you still fail. It happens a lot too in that free parking section at the end of the game in Act 5. It always happens to me. I'm sure you perhaps have your own stories of woe on Gears of War. But this whole time, Dom was way back where we were, just standing on the beach, just watching me fight. So I guess that's better than him trying to come over here and then have him fucking fall in combat like he usually does. So once you sprint down to the edge of the pier here, we're going to be on this raft. Is that the appropriate word? I really don't know. There is a box of ammunition that will spawn infinitely. However, I'm not going to fire a single shot, and I would recommend that you don't either, because it's a waste of time. And this is basically just trying to put yourself in a spot where you have at least some cover in front of you or to the side of you. In one moment though, and you have to move around just quite a bit too, so when this next one comes over here, just adjust accordingly. If you want to, feel free to fight, but I always test these sections to see if I have to actually do anything, and you don't have to do anything. In fact, it's probably harder if you do try to shoot everybody and, you know, take damage beyond what you are getting dealt with while you're trying to just go from box to box. Oh, thanks a lot, Dom. Dom fell in combat. And here is a classic situation where we have to go get him. There's going to be a ton of classic situations, but one of the gunboats, one of the gunships left because they must have some knowledge of the beast that's in these brackish waters. But the cutscene over here is going to be followed by a checkpoint. So you don't quite have a checkpoint, but just hold on one moment, and you will secure yourself that nice checkpoint. And you will have to deboard this raft and get onto another one. Have we fought the flamethrower guy yet? I can't recall. It must be coming up over here though. Here he is. It's just one guy too, so just take him out as fast as you can, and then you want to switch ships or boats, what have you, and then you will be getting a checkpoint over here. The good thing about this too is that you're never in a position where enemies are firing at you from both sides. There might be a little bit of overlap, but there are good spots to stand, especially this little rounded off corner right over here where the fire is being contained in that little cockpit area. So Dom's going to say somebody is coming, somebody over to the left or something like that, and then that means that you want to get back on here. Now, if you do want to take out the grinder, he can cause some problems, but I found it amusing that I was able to do this last time, and I just wanted to showcase it again. But I don't mind these particular sections. I do wish that you did have to get involved. You know, like maybe you could you would be tasked with shooting down some key component of their ship that would make them you know, go underwater or something like that. But man, this game, it does have its ugly colors and patches and dreary sort of tones, but I've really got to hand it to the developers for pushing this game up to where it needed to be. One of the reasons too that I'm covering all these games is because I said I've said for many years, once these games get upgraded to 60, I will definitely come back to them and redo them. Did you see that? I think Dom called for a medic right there as well. Okay, so we've defended the gunboat. I think that's all we had to do. Now we just need to converse with our wife and see where the river will take us. Well, it's going to take us to the last chapter of Act 3, and unfortunately, it's a boss fight. And I say unfortunately, not because I hate boss fights, but because Gears of War doesn't really know how to make good boss fights. Sometimes it just forgets to make a boss fight, like on this title. Just forgot to put a boss fight at the end of the game. I always like to joke about that, but I shouldn't. That's kind of mean, isn't it? Anyway, though, displacement. We definitely were displaced and are going to be displaced once we fall down here, for sure, into these brackish waters. And in those waters, I will see you in the next video where we take on the boss fight. Take care.